You're listening to Journaling with PT. I'm your host, artist PT Russell. This is a podcast that highlights creative voices and emerging artists from all over the world. Please enjoy my conversation with pro wrestler Cory Kastle. Enjoy. Boom.
Boom. Hello.
And welcome to the podcast, Mr. Cory Kastle.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I know you must be like blindfolded or something right now, right?
Uh, well, it's funny you should say that. I was I'm used to a video podcast, like for sure. It's interesting to do audio only, but when you say I'm blindfolded, it's funny because like my eyesight is really bad, and
Uh-oh.
and as I was going to put my contacts in because I didn't want to wear my glasses on camera, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, this is audio only, so I don't
Right.
have to put my contacts." In.
Yeah, you could do whatever you want. You could be sitting up there in the buff and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, all that. I
Yeah.
could.
Yeah. So I was concerned about that because I know you have a certain format you've gotten accustomed to, and this is a little off the beaten path, but
Well, I mean, I started in the beginning
mhm,
with podcasting, doing audio only.
mhm,
When I first started out, I was doing almost like a it was my show in the beginning was almost like like a radio show because it was
mhm,
at a internet radio station, so I would be on the air like on the internet radio
mhm.
on a local channel
Right.
where I'd be playing music and talking to people, and
What did
it
you
was
play? What kind of music did you play?
I would just play anything that I felt would be, kind of along the theme of evolving. So
All right.
I would play uh, Satsang,
Mm,
Nako, Tubby Love, stuff just like mellow, sort of
mhm.
like, um, the word woke is definitely misused these days,
Oh yeah, I
but
agree.
it was definitely some like spiritually woke music that I
Mhm.
would be playing.
Yeah. So this is like a trip back in the
Yes,
future,
yes,
back in the
exactly.
past. You got in this little invisible DeLorean, and we're headed somewhere else. Just for a
Yes,
little trip. You'll be back to business in no time, right?
sure, yeah. I
Yes.
I think I'm recording a new episode of my podcast later today.
Right, there you go. Do you record every day? Just curious.
Not every single day, but
Hmm.
as often as possible. Like
Okay.
as many times I can set up guests. If I have a guest that I can set up a time to record with, I'll try to get one in almost like, probably like 2 or 3 days a week.
Wow. That's a lot. How do you keep up with all of
No,
that?
yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, it's because recording my show is like maybe my favorite thing I do. Like
Mhm,
I do work a few jobs, so like
mhm.
I just kind of pick what's what's my favorite thing and try to do as much of it as I can.
I don't blame you. And would you tell our listeners a little bit about the Evolving with Cory Kastle podcast?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I I have I have been doing my podcast, Evolving with Cory Kastle, which is me. I'm Cory Kastle. I'm also a professional wrestler and a comedian and an
Mhm.
actor based out of Philadelphia. My
Cool, cool.
podcast has been around, started in 2017. I mean, it's still getting that humble climb going on. It's slow and steady wins the race sort of thing. Uh,
Yeah.
the the key is to not become impatient with. I think it's tough to think about when it comes to when it comes to people have hesitation with starting new podcasts, and they normally say like,
Mhm.
"Oh, there's so many podcasts out there."
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I thought the same thing.
that must be true, but at the same time, I think wonder how many of those podcasts only have like 10 episodes or less
Mm.
because people put a show out and expect it to be an instant hit, you
Mhm.
know, and then it isn't, and then they give up on it. So uh, I think the key is consistency. So I, regardless of what size the audience is, I'm gonna be making this show no matter what because its its purpose and its intention is more to be helpful to me
Yeah.
and have it be me staying consistent with me doing something well because when it comes to the legacy that I'm making for myself and
Mhm.
me having almost like an on the record version of
Mhm.
who I actually am. So, when I'm not around anymore, or if I'm not in somebody's life anymore, they can maybe
Mhm.
go back and listen to a whole bunch of episodes that are actually me, that are me talking like me, and I'll never be forgotten.
Oh my, you will never be forgotten. Oh my god, it caused me to get emotional so early. What's up with you? You
Yeah,
rock,
yeah,
man.
I
Because hey,
I
I'm a new podcaster and you're speaking to the choir right now because I'm like, okay, it's tough because it's hard work and a lot of people don't realize how much work goes in the back end, right?
right.
And I'm very new. I'm like 15 episodes new. So that is pretty
Right.
darn new. And I see why people they call it pod fade. I think that's what it's called.
Is it?
And that
Oh,
what
I never heard that. I've never
yeah,
heard that
yeah.
phrase, but
The, yeah,
that makes way more sense than anything.
yeah, it's pod fade that they have like you said, they get to like the eighth episode and it's like, okay, I'm out of content or I'm not feeling it, it's just too much and they're gone.
Right. Like
Yeah.
I was chatting with a boy the other day, and he was talking about starting a podcast, and he said I'm afraid to do it because I'm afraid it's just gonna flop, and I'm like, hey,
Mm,
anything you do will
mhm.
flop if you never start it.
Right.
It will be considered a flop if you never get started with anything. And I mean, if you think like a podcast not getting 1 zillion downloads in the first week is going to be a flop, then yeah, of course it's going to flop.
Mm,
You got to build
true.
it.
Yeah. That is very true. And how many episodes do you have? I mean, you
Uh,
must have amassed a lot.
I just recorded 320. My 320th episode just came out. Well, it just came out on YouTube. But
Mm,
the fun thing is, here's a very a really inside thing.
mhm.
My my podcast, Evolving with Cory Kastle, you can get it on YouTube earlier than you can get it on the podcasting apps. So before it comes out on Spotify and before it comes out on Apple Podcasts, it normally comes out on YouTube first.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
So if you follow me on YouTube, you'll get early access to episodes
So follow him on YouTube.
at at Cory Kastle on YouTube. Cory, no E in Cory.
Mm.
CoryKastle, and
Good.
that's my YouTube channel. And
I'm following you on Spotify. I thought that was where all the goodies were.
well, I mean, the videos are on there, but I'm saying like if it was on
Hmm.
if interested in checking out episodes earlier than what you'd get them on Spotify,
Mm.
if you follow on YouTube, you'll you'll get them a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that's great. And congratulations,
Subscribe.
320 episodes. Oh my goodness. I'm
Yeah.
so far from that.
Well, I mean, it may seem that way now, but when you're 320 episodes in, you'll be like, "Oh, okay, it's just a matter of it's a matter of creating timestamps in life, you know? Like
True,
like
true.
I could maybe go back and listen to my 130th episode and then kind of listen for only a couple minutes and be like, "Oh man, I remember what exactly I was going through at that time. This is the
Mm,
moment where I was in between these jobs and that job and between like I was in this relationship and I had this going on and
mm,
man, the biggest problem I had was this, and I talk
right.
about it on the show. There's never a moment where I'm not fully vulnerable about what's actually going on in my current life. So,
Yes.
uh, it's
You're
it's
very true to that, the evolving part for sure.
thanks.
Yeah, the name of you're very consistent with that. And because I think a lot, I'm not to say if you can't get off topic sometimes, but I think you're very consistent in what you've presented. And I had a I always have a good time listening in. It's always funny, of course. And some of your guests are very animated, I must say, and yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I just really, for the most part, I don't. I don't like to. I like to say that there isn't a theme of I mean, I get that there's
Mhm.
a theme, but when I do go off topic, it's because there really isn't a topic. Like it doesn't
Mm,
have to stick to one thing. It
right,
it's the entire topic or the entire episode, the whole gimmick is that it's ever evolving. So the show isn't exactly fitting into a certain genre or niche. So
right.
there's definitely flexibility for it to be one thing or the other, depending on what the mood feels like.
Yeah, well, it's perfect. I think you do an excellent job, and you have great guests.
Thank you.
And is a particular guest when he comes on. I always listen. I can't. I think his name is Maraconi, if I'm pronouncing it
Lou,
correctly.
Lou Marconi, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
he's been on Evolving, maybe 3 times, but together, Lou and I host our a separate podcast called the Sunday Stew Pod, and
Mhm.
you might see that pretty often on my Instagram feed because he tags me in all the posts. But
Mhm.
our show, the Sunday Stew Pot, that only comes on Rumble, which is
Mhm.
like a whole other streaming platform. It's like an alternative to YouTube, except for they're
Mhm.
they don't have like um, they don't have restrictions on things that you can talk about.
Right.
Like YouTube could flag you.
Censored and
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
right. So it's Rumble's a little more uncensored than YouTube. So all it's
Wow, that's pretty
only
rough then.
it, you can only find full episodes of the Sunday Stew Pot on Rumble.
Mm,
But there's some really good shows on Rumble. So I mean, if you're on the fence about downloading Rumble, maybe maybe look on YouTube and see like clips because you'll be able to find clips, but you won't be able to find any full episodes of any other show that's on Rumble. But like Russell Brand has a show on
mm,
Rumble. Steven Crowder has a show on Rumble. Tucker Carlson, uh, RFK Jr. Like there's a lot of
good stuff.
people. There's a lot of people who speak on there who maybe have been silenced by YouTube or any other networks that they were kind of on. So it's
Yes.
real neat. I mean, if
So if I want to go off on a tangent, it's a perfect place to go.
oh yeah, if you have stuff that you're afraid that YouTube or Spotify might come at you for like, hey man, you can't talk like that. Then
Hmm.
Rumble won't do that to you.
All right. Well, for the listeners, they could check it out and see what it's like. I peeped around in there and I was completely lost. It's a lot of stuff coming at you. I was like, this is a whole community. This is a whole, yeah, it's so busy. so much going on. Everything that you can think of, like you said, on YouTube is on there, but
Right.
it's just yeah, so it's a little overwhelming. I may peep back in. Do you have allergies, Cory?
Yeah, well, my nose is kind of runny today.
Oh,
I
sorry to hear that.
woke up woke up and woke up and was a little stuffy. But
Hmm.
my girlfriend has 101 fever right now.
Oh, jeez.
So
So
maybe I caught a little bit of it.
yeah, you. It sounds like you caught something. Yeah, but you'll be okay. So I appreciate you for, and we appreciate you for coming on with despite that.
Yeah,
That is
totally.
great. Yeah, that's great.
PT,
And
you're in Canada, right?
I am.
Yeah.
I am. Yeah. When was the
Explain
last time
to
you were
me.
here? Were you here before?
I've never been to Canada. No,
Oh.
I've I feel
Mhm.
like I feel like it would be a good place for me to be at. Like a good. It feels like real kind, which is
Yeah. Yeah. I think
something
so. I
I'm
think so.
lacking in Philadelphia. It's really the
It's a rough
opposite of
city.
kind.
Really?
Yeah, there people
It's
people
supposed to be the city of brotherly love. What happened to
well,
that?
that's what they say, but you know what's funny? Most of my friends who are guys who have brothers
Mhm.
don't like their brothers.
Wow.
So it's not really. I mean, it's called the city of brotherly love, but I don't really think that people take it very literally.
Hmm. So you don't see. Yeah. Well, here, I mean, everywhere. I think in every country there are like these communities and cliques,
Right.
and I'm sure that there is. You would definitely find a space here that you would be, kind of comfortable in maneuvering around in.
I, I've
But
had a I've had
yeah.
a few Canadians on my podcast.
Hmm.
One of my
Yeah.
favorite guests that I had on was this Canadian filmmaker named Kurt Spenrath,
Hmm.
and he I had him on a few times. I had him on once on just an audio only podcast back in
Hmm.
the day when I wasn't doing video, but I had one a couple months ago with him where
Hmm.
he was he made a joke and I made a clip out of it. I put it on my Instagram, but he said he talked about he talked about non wrestling fans and how
Hmm.
they like maligned the art form of pro wrestling. And he's like,
Ah,
people don't do that with ballet. They're like, these
right, right.
idiots actually think that chick thinks she's a swan.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's so funny.
Yeah, what did he produce? Can you name any of his films at
He
all?
he does he does TV,
Mm,
but
okay.
I don't know any names of titles.
Oh,
I know
no
he
worries.
works for like a pretty major network.
Yeah, I'm sure you get a lot of wrestling questions, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Be,
it's
yeah,
almost
because I have.
unavoidable.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Because I have a few questions from people who heard you're going to be on the podcast, and they
Oh,
and they sent them along. So
nice. Well, I'm here for it.
yeah, I mean, I have my own curiosities
Sure.
because I've been a fan of wrestling. And many of the listeners would have been fans of wrestling. And I mean, you have to understand that the culture I'm from, originally in the Bahamas,
Okay.
wrestling is basically a part, no lie, of the Bahamian iconography. It
Cool.
is, yeah. They had matches. My brother and I, my brother Alexander, we went to so many. Yeah, he really, really loved it. And it's one of the things I guess I miss, that they had these. They would fly in, and all of these different wrestlers would come. I think it was like Kevin Sullivan, and back in the day,
Oh,
and his favorite was like Rick Rude. This could
right.
tell you how. Yeah, I'm aging myself here, but that's fine. Rock and Roll Express, Sting, of course.
Right.
Sting with the blonde hair, not the crow look,
So
and so that was I.
WCW,
Mm.
brother.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's just on and on, and one of my mother's favorites, Lex Luger. Uh, Yeah, so it's like in the family, it's something that it was always available,
Uh-huh.
and it was always an event and a family event. So I have good memories,
Nice.
and most
Love to
I
hear that.
think most Bahamians have good memories around the wrestling world.
Talk.
So my mother, mummy, dearest, wanted to know what motivated your interest in wrestling.
Oh man. I think I I think it's mostly probably the generation of what was on TV at the time. I think
Mm,
like as a wrestling fan, what really hooked me was the generation when I was a kid. What
mm,
was Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, uh, their matches. I'd see like Stone Cold Steve Austin before he got really popular was when I started following wrestling, and then those guys uh, seeing the showmanship because I've never been like a real sports fan, and I
mm,
think I think I kind of got a little discouraged about sports based around how they do like all everything is like math and numbers. They're like, oh, he's this many yards and that number. Like he's
you're right.
he's
Yeah.
like 6-2 or whatever. And I'm like, what does that all mean? I don't know all the rules and I don't know all the numbers and what all that stuff means. And wrestling doesn't seem to have all that. And
Mm,
I thought I could get really into it. So I was really into it as a fan, and and I I think what happened was there was a this kind of aging me a bit right now saying this next part. There was there was a there was an ad in the newspaper for
mhm,
for a pro wrestling gym, like where they were putting, they were putting kids in the ring like my age. I must have been like 13, 14,
mhm,
and I saw kids on the picture in the article that were around my age. So me and my friend Scott, we went and we tried out, and then it turns out it was just
mhm.
kind of like a scam situation.
Oh man.
Somebody who just kind of built their own ring. But I mean, at the same time, man, it was the attitude era. You know what I mean?
Built their
Like
own thing.
it was
Yeah.
it was a time when pro wrestling was hot. So it was like I felt like I was in the business, and the business was my favorite thing at that time. So I stuck there for a year or so, and I met some actually trained, like, good professional wrestlers, and they brought me to a real training center, and I got trained the right way when I
Oh,
was when
that's
I was
good.
15, I think. And
That's a long time you've been there long.
what's that?
You've been out in the game a little time. It's been some while.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I at December 2023, I turned 40. So
Well, congratulations to you. Major milestone.
thanks. This was so this era that I'm talking about was like
Hmm.
late 90s. I think like I jumped into a professional wrestling ring for the first time when I was 14. It was the summer before ninth grade, maybe the summer. It was maybe before eighth grade,
Hmm.
but yeah, I didn't get into any like school sports or anything like that because I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and that was it. Like
Mm.
I never wanted to be anything else. So I
Wow.
mean, if podcasting existed, I would have maybe chose that instead.
Right. Yeah. Part B to her question is, how do you maintain fitness and avoid injury?
Oh, pure luck, pure luck. Just
You're blessed, man.
oh yes, just just blessings. No, I go to the gym. I almost every day.
Mm,
I work out every day, and I try to stay as active as possible. And avoiding injuries is almost unavoidable. You can't avoid them forever. I just have been super lucky that I haven't had a whole lot of humongous injuries. Uh,
okay.
and I think it has something to do with you know kind of knowing where to be and how to be there. And uh,
Mhm.
it's kind of like with I think I stole this line from Al Snow. He says experience is the very best teacher. So
Yeah.
you can learn a bunch of stuff, but if you're learning it in a book, it's not the same as actually experiencing it and actually doing it.
Yes.
So if you have a ton of experience at something, you're probably likely to be better at it. And I think that
Wow.
was what is maybe the reason why I've avoided injuries for so long in
Wow.
wrestling.
Well, that rules out Dion's question, which was he wanted to know what your worst injury was. He assumed you were injured.
Oh man. Well, it's funny. It's funny that I really haven't had too many bad injuries. I mean,
Okay.
I've had some pretty minor things. Like I broke my ribs. Uh,
That's major.
broke my
What are you
ribs.
talking about?
I broke. I don't. It's not like career ending. It's not like
That's true. True.
It's not like my career is over. I broke my nose a couple times.
Oh my
I've
goodness.
broken fingers. I broke both my thumbs at the same time once.
What?
Uh, yeah, yeah. It was almost like I was having a a bookie's muscle come after me and break both my thumbs.
My goodness.
Have you ever seen Rocky?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Uh, And Rocky came after me and broke my thumbs.
Oh my
Remember,
goodness.
remember,
And
remember when?
in the Hustler, Paul Newman's character had both his thumbs were broken.
Right.
I was devastated. That's because that's one of the first films I remember watching, and I was like, my goodness. Yeah, it was something. And he was like, he had this cast on. I know it was. I know in retrospect it's pretend, it's not real, but I felt like it was real.
Right.
He made it seem like it was real, and so I could only imagine what you how do because you need your thumbs. It's like how do you do stuff
Uh,
without thumbs?
it was adapt, man. That's how I deal with anything and everything.
Yes.
Is just
Cool.
kind of adapt to whatever the situation is. I I went
Okay.
to bodyguard school.
Really?
I'm licensed to be a bodyguard, and one of the principles they had, and they had it written on the board when you walked in the room. It said "Uda," and it was OODA, right? And he said, you just minimalize your OODA loop, and just kind of always make your OODA loop quicker. And OODA stands for observe, orient, decide, act.
Hmm.
So he was
Okay.
like, it's all about you know observing, orienting, deciding what you're going to do, and then doing it.
Yeah.
So just
So now bodyguard school, uh,
right.
did they, oh, obviously they taught you how to fight, I'm assuming?
Well, that was part of it. I mean, it
Mhm.
wasn't teaching me how to fight in bodyguard school. It was teaching me how to defend in bodyguard school.
Okay. Okay. Get it. Okay. So
So,
some of your skills from the wrestling ring and whatnot would have been useful. Did you
oh,
have to
yeah,
take
yeah.
anyone down?
I mean, I was already wrestling for uh, 18 years or something at that point. I I
Oh,
I'd been in the business for a while at the time when I went to bodyguard school, and I haven't actually gotten too many bodyguard gigs or any like
okay.
security gigs. I mean, like sure, I'm like a bouncer at a bar and stuff, but it's not it's not the same as being
Not
a
the
bodyguard.
same. A personal bodyguard
Right.
for like somebody.
Right. I could do what's called executive protection, but
Okay.
I'm not currently doing any of it.
What's that?
Executive protection is a fancy word of a fancy phrase for bodyguard.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Well, learn something new every day. All right. The last question is from Sean, and he asks, is there a difference in between, or he said, in the mindset between entertainment wrestling versus competitive or MMA style wrestling?
Oh yeah. Let me ask you this.
Mm.
Is that Sean spelled Sean Shawn? What?
SHAWN.
All right. All right. Sean Shawn. The difference in the mindset is and the competition. The competition is way different in in professional wrestling, of course, than it is in MMA because it's a show, man. We're not trying to win. We're just trying to be, to stand out in the show more, and that's where the competition kind of is. In MMA, the competition is you're trying to win.
Mm.
The that's not really the case in professional wrestling. Professional wrestling is we're putting on the best show together, and we're trying to be the best showman and get the best spot on the show. So I think that the competition more in my sport is more about trying to get a better spot on each event, trying to get
Mm.
like closer to the main event, trying to sell the most merchandise, trying to get like fans to line up at the door uh,
Mm.
to show that they're interested in what I'm trying to do, like what storyline I'm trying to do, what gimmick I'm trying to sell. So in
Yeah.
MMA, it's like they also they also train for 6 months for one fight. Like, and
Right.
they will have a fight, you know, 6 months to a year. They'll train for one fight. Uh, Pro wrestlers will do our thing every single day of the week.
Mm.
So that's like one of the
Oh
one
my
of the most
goodness.
major things.
Yeah.
Is,
So that's
and
a lot of put your body through. You said,
yeah,
wow.
it is a lot. I mean, it's not. I say pretty often when it comes to any sport, right? Like you could go you could go to your school that you go to and become a baseball player or a football player or be on the track team or be on this team or that team in school.
Mm.
Or if you go to any strip mall, there's a martial arts gym anywhere. But when was the last time you saw a pro wrestling school? Right, like
I you don't see them.
you don't see them very often. So
No.
to be a part of that, you have to really truly seek it out. And
Mm.
and anybody who seeks it out and continues doing it has got to be a really tough person. So
I can
uh,
imagine so.
I normally say to anybody who continues this training. So like when I go and try to do seminars or anything at schools, I'll always say like, have the purpose in your mind that like you deserve to be here. Like you absolutely deserve to be here. You really put the effort forward to become this thing. You did that because you must have believed that you truly deserved to do it. So do it.
Mm.
Do everything you do serving the purpose that like, yeah, I absolutely belong here. Like I seek this place out. Like nobody just, gave me being a professional wrestling fan or
Right.
like real
Yeah.
I mean, it's tougher these days because WWE does offer people contracts and pays them to be trained, but they're a huge corporation, and that's very very rare that happens.
Okay. Wow. So you have to climb up the ranks, so to speak.
Sure, I mean that's
Is
part of it. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's that's
Pay your
certainly
dues.
a, the paying dues never ends. I would say I've been paying dues since 1998, and I
Ouch.
don't I don't think I'll ever stop. I don't I don't know for sure. Like, it comes to the point where you have to, go to shows and set up chairs and build the ring and stuff with the crew. I for sure have been doing that since I was a kid, and I don't do it as much anymore. But if I'm asked to, or if like I see that they need some help, I'll jump in and help.
Right.
Because it's a team effort, It's really, we're all gonna do better if we all do better together.
Yeah, this seems like it's pretty tough. And you mentioned, oh, it's for entertainment,
Right.
and I'm thinking about the broken ribs, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a conundrum I'm trying to figure out.
Right.
It's entertainment, and you're actually your body's,
Because
your
the risks are
yes,
way more real than the respect that the business gets, for sure. Because
okay.
like you were just talking about uh what was the hustler? The guy
Oh, the Hustler, yeah,
and the
Paul
guy
Newman and the
had
Hustler, yeah.
broken thumbs, and it
Hmm.
wasn't real, right? But you were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it made me feel it." Uh,
Yes.
that's kind of what wrestling is. It's not like it's not the risks aren't real. The risks are absolutely real, and the sacrifices are absolutely real. Like when anyone says to me about wrestling being fake and blowing it off because they think it's fake, and I'm like, you know, uh, tell that to me the next time I get a concussion. Tell that to me the next
Oh,
time I try to eat a big sandwich and can't because my jaw's too messed up from being punched in my face for the last decade or two. It's so much more real than people want to give it credit for, because it's something they can't understand. And like
hmm.
when anyone says anything to me about wrestling or anything, and they approach it in some sort of disrespectful way of like,
Hmm.
oh, it's fake and it doesn't matter. Then I'll also be like,
Oh, that's fake blood. That's what they
right,
would say.
right, and I'll also be like, hey, th- if it's not for you, that's fine. But like,
Hmm.
don't judge it in a way where you're like diminishing it, because what the hell are you doing with your life? Probably not living your best life or your dream life, what you always wanted to be. This is something I always wanted it to be. This is something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to to be somebody in the pro wrestling business, and your hate's not going to stop that.
Right. Yeah. Well, you have more fans than haters, I think.
I hope so.
Yes, you have a fan in me and my listeners. I'm guaranteeing
Thank you.
they're gonna love it. So that is wow. And the leagues, the leagues always confuse me a bit. So can you break down the leagues, because it's like the Hulkamaniacs, and then it's this, and so I'm trying to figure out who
Well,
goes where. Put them in a
like
headlock.
the major wrestling companies that exist, right?
Mhm.
Those are what would be considered the major leagues. Would be WWE
Okay.
and AEW. I would say maybe TNA is in that, and like some of the ones that have like TV and kind of have contracts for their talent. I work in like a way more independent than that, like not really on TV. You could just you could subscribe on YouTube to DCW Dynamite Championship Wrestling. It would be DCW Overdrive TV.com, or it would be on YouTube at DCW Overdrive TV. That's my main league that I'm in is DCW. But like
Okay.
when we were talking about the like performing in the Bahamas, and you were mentioning people who are in WCW, that's a league that got bought up by.
That was WCW that I mentioned. I didn't know. I just knew the guys came in and we had a good time. I have no idea who was doing what
I
or where they.
I mean, it sounded like it was WCW with the talent that you mentioned.
Yes, like Rick Rude and the Rock and Roll Express, and Telly Sullivan, I think his name was.
Kevin Sullivan,
Uh, Kevin Sullivan,
Kevin Sullivan,
Telly something. Oh my goodness, he used to do this move where he used to spin around.
yeah,
Telly, man, I can't
Tully
remember right now.
Blanchard. That would have been.
Yeah, yeah, could be Telly Blanchard, and it was the ones with the fists of stone, the Garvin, something Garvin. I remember these guys. Yeah, I mean, we had our favorites, and you can remember those ones like the Road Warriors or something like that. And my grandmother loved Dusty Rhodes. That was her favorite.
Right.
When the Dusty Rhodes match came on, you knew you're gonna see blood. It's like, oh my goodness.
Well, you see his forehead, how
Oh yeah,
chewed up it was.
yeah. But then I heard someone say, oh, they got like razors and they were doing that to themselves so they can just for sensationalize what they're doing.
Right, right.
And
Well, I mean
so people have
that's part of the art. That's part of the work of it.
mm,
Is the is
okay.
the is the razor blades and the real blood. Like it's
Oh
actually
my
real.
god, the real razor blades. Are
Yes.
you kidding me?
Yes. That's part of the sacrifice of it. You know what I mean? It's
That's
part of
dangerous.
the paying your dues. It's part of the pay and pain sort of approach to things.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, so I kind of like processing this now. It's really deep. Uh, yeah, because you don't realize the sacrifices. Uh, watching. I remember his matches, watching them with my grandmother, and he had this move where he would use his elbow, and he would just hit people on the head with it. He was just so passionate about what he did, and not everyone was as passionate. But I noticed the more passionate ones were the more popular ones.
Right.
I wasn't too much, not to say anything about him, but I wasn't too much a fan of The Rock smelling what The Rock was cooking. I wasn't smelling anything, but a lot of people around me really loved him. But I just, I guess Undertaker and a few others were more my
Right.
speed. But
Yeah.
everybody has their favorites, right? So that's why it's so much fun.
Well, The
Then there
Rock and
yeah,
The Undertaker, that was if we're going back to the league talk, that was
mm,
WWF.
okay,
That was
WWF, yeah, yeah.
WWF in the 90s,
Hmm.
which
Right.
eventually became WWE when
Okay.
they bought up WCW and ECW. So when WWF bought ECW and WCW, they became WWE. Uh, and it was World Wrestling Entertainment instead of World Wrestling Federation.
Mm, I see. Yeah, well, that
That
it's a lot
everybody who
clearer
was
now.
listening just tuned out. They were like, "All right, we're done. We're done listening. We're confused." I was talking about
No,
things that don't have to be as confusing in wrestling as in other sports with
mm,
all the numbers and stuff. But when it comes to all the letters and what they stand for, never mind. I'm out of here.
yeah. Where was Cactus Jack? My brother loved him.
Cactus Jack was everywhere. He was in WCW, ECW, and WWF.
Oh, okay, that's what happened.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
Yes.
He was a character.
For sure. Yeah.
Most of them were. That's why they're memorable because they had something about their persona, like Ric Flair. He was like woo, and he had his own thing going on. Everybody has their marquee moment,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, that their trademark. Their trademark is that's a lot of fun. So you have fun with it, right? It's not just.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure you're.
There's nonstop fun with it. I think if I think the main there's a rule in wrestling that's kind of unspoken, but it's like when you stop having fun with it, you have to walk away.
Hmm.
And I've never stopped having fun, and here I am, 21 years later, still
Hmm.
still kind of kicking.
You're rocking, man. I'm telling you, you're rocking.
Yeah.
And obviously, I know you did some filmmaking and whatnot,
Uh-huh.
but do you plan to do something else
Oh
in
man,
the future?
I'm I'm constantly planning stuff. I constantly have,
Mm,
uh, I have myself submitted for new things all the time, trying to
mm,
be as dynamic of a talent as I can be, as far as
right.
being a performer. So I love acting and filmmaking, and uh, I love watching lines that I wrote
Oh,
be spoken by an actor on a screen. I love that. Uh, so there's just
I didn't know you were into screenwriting as well.
I love it's just everything creative and everything
Hmm.
uh, as far as performative wise. I love
Yeah.
that. You,
You mentioned ballet earlier. Did you try ballet before?
I've never tried ballet. My
Okay.
aunt was a ballet dancer, but
Neat.
I've not been I've never been into ballet. I only mentioned it earlier because was uh I was quoting my friend Kurt Fenrick.
No, I'm not poking fun, because it's a beautiful thing. It's a
Oh
beautiful
yeah, it
art
is
of dance.
for sure, for sure.
Absolutely. So, and
Mad
I mean,
respect.
kudos to those guys. Yes, because I want you to stand on that one foot, on that toe,
Oh,
on those toes,
I won't
with your
even
leg up
attempt
in
it.
the
I
other
won't
leg
attempt
up in the air.
to even try it. It takes a level of muscles. Like there's muscles that are working to get you up on those tippy toes that I've probably never used.
I can imagine. And so restorative, like, if do you have any restorative healing techniques, things that you do just to calm yourself down, or you
Uh,
know to yeah,
I wouldn't say that it's
meditative. Yes.
well. I do. I kind of want to. I kind of want to answer that by saying, like, for the most part, I just am careful about what I'm consuming, what information, what content comes through my brain. You know, like what goes into my eyes and
Mm,
what I like soak into my spirit. Right. So
awesome.
if I'm watching violence and I'm watching hatred and I'm watching drama and things
Hmm.
like that. And I started attracting that sort of thing more into my life, and maybe I don't. It's not serving me in any way, so I'll
Right.
restrict how often I'll consume that type of thing. Like I've kind of given up on horror movies a little. I'm a huge. I grew up a huge horror movie fan. I love
Same.
horror stuff, but I've kind of faded away from watching as much of it
Hmm.
because I don't want to
Yeah,
welcome that sort of nasty energy into my life.
precisely.
And
Yeah, that's wise move there. I had to do the same thing because I am also a fan of horrors. Like, some of them are very demonic, actually. Like, I mean, they're good movies like The Ring or the original The Omen,
right.
and but it changes the atmosphere around you, if you'd notice, when you're watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And like The Ring, when that girl comes out of the television, you're like, what the hell just happened? It almost seemed like she was coming into your space.
Right. Right.
Did you watch The Ring?
Yes.
Yes. And when that happened, I was like, oh, I was spooking. I was like, what is this happen? What's happening here?
Right.
Because it just, the music, everything. I was like, dun, dun, and then she's coming. I was like, what the hell? Let me just turn this thing
Do you
off.
think?
But
Do you
yeah.
think if
Hmm.
you talk about the ring and and like your audience, if they're younger, they're like,
Hmm.
what is that? It's a movie where people
Oh,
would watch a VHS tape, and then your audience is like, a VHS tape? What's that?
yeah, that's true. A lot of people like, what you give it to them, they're flipping it over and over in their hands. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Even a cassette tape. Well, DVDs are still somewhere in between, but you can spin it around or whatever. Yeah, but they, like, even with video games, I don't think many video games have discs anymore.
Right.
Yeah, so everything's changing. You see that? You notice that?
Yeah, it's.
Things, yeah.
I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, like are you familiar with the Mandela effect?
The Mandela effect. I've heard it.
It
I've heard of
it
it.
has something to do with so the idea is they believe that um that we've crossed over into an alternate universe, like an alternate
Mm,
reality where
hmm.
um where like certain things like the Berenstein Bears are now spelled Berenstain Bears, Stain, which they weren't
Right,
spelled that way
right.
before. And anyone who remembers them spelled Berenstein Bears is maybe left over from the old universe, right? So like some of the some of the realities that we like mass remember are
Mm,
different than what the actual thing is because like there's been a crossover into an alternate reality. Um, so
Mm,
there's a few other examples. One being like the car in Legally Blonde. People
mhm,
remember it as being pink, and it isn't pink when people watch the movie back. There,
mm.
there's a couple. If you dive into the Mandela effect, um, you'll kind of see where I'm coming from. But I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking like maybe what we're really in,
Mhm.
maybe what we're really in is an afterlife. What if this is heaven to somebody? Like it's this like
Mm.
what if you actually died and this is your afterlife?
What if this is purgatory? What if
Mm,
this is the life before afterlife?
maybe, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that's another. I mean, the truth is, we'll find out. We know that. I mean, everybody has their own beliefs and their belief systems and whatnot, but there had to be a creator.
right,
I that's there had to be a supreme being
right,
who created
right,
all of this. This isn't. I know they say it's by chance. It's just my cinco centavos. I mean, people have their differing opinions, but yeah, there it is. But I think that's awesome.
yeah.
I Yeah, and
I
I'm glad that you're taking care of your mental health. I was really concerned about that because I know, the sports. Not that that's a sport. I want to minimize it to a sport, but I'm just saying there's a lot of physical activity that requires a lot of athleticism.
Oh, I consider
And
it a sport. I call it a sport.
okay, okay, call it a sport, and so there's a certain energy that needs to be exerted
Right. We
in
we
this
are
within
we
that
are
sport.
athletes. We are combat sport athletes. Like
Yes.
that's what I how I reference professional wrestling and professional wrestlers on a
Mhm.
daily basis.
Yes, and so there's a certain level of energy and mental fortitude that's required, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm thinking
Some
about
exhaustion that has to
right,
go into
and
it.
there has to be there's a yin and the yang. There's okay, well, there's another side. So I was kind of not concerned, but I was like just curious about how you came down from all of that and kind of relaxed your mind and then I think the podcasting is one of the things you say you enjoy.
Hmm.
And it seems like you seem quite at ease when you're doing it and you're really enjoying yourself and you're really chill.
I,
So that's
I'm
great.
glad that vibe comes across.
Oh, it does. Totally comes across. Yeah, that's important. So any advice for any prospective persons listening, interested in wrestling, wanting to try, feeling like, okay, well, maybe I'm too short or I just don't have the body type for it, but I'm really interested or something of that nature because everybody has their own issues that they're dealing with or challenges.
Um, with pursuing anything, there's always going to be voices telling you that you're to this or you're to that, and you can't. But you've kind of persisted through those voices to be anything. So persist through any of those voices to pursue whatever it is that you'd like to pursue, regardless of if you're too short or you're too fat or you're too old or whatever. And any of those things are, very they can be marketable. Any of that stuff. Any of
Mm-hmm.
that can be fuel. Any of that can be like a motivator. Like imagine that, somebody who sees you doing it, who was thinking that they were maybe too small to do it, are now inspired to do it, and then that person becomes a wrestler and then becomes like main event of WrestleMania and the biggest wrestler that ever lived. So like you gotta also pay attention to maybe who's paying attention to you,
Mm-hmm. True.
being inspired by you. So
Very true.
uh, stay inspired, and then you'll inspire others.
That's awesome. And before we wrap up, where can folks find you?
I can be found on Instagram or on YouTube or on Facebook. Any of those places, it's Cory Kastle. It's at Cory Kastle, all one word, CORYKASTLE. And man, if you're ever going through anything, if you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to, some judgment-free conversation, reach out to me. I'm not a difficult person to get in touch with. My DMs are wide open, so I'll certainly respond to anything anyone ever says to me.
And that is rare. You're rare. You know that. You're a gem.
I appreciate it. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
sure you know that. And what else is on the agenda? I saw that there was like an advertisement for some tag team with the Sparks. What's that all about?
The,
Before we
so
go.
January 20th, I'll be uh, live from Marydale, Delaware, at the fire hall. It's going to be I guess they're doing for DCW. They're calling the show is called Fast Fate, and
Mm.
it's like the fans get to choose who the opponents are. So they're given like a multiple choice. So I'll either be wrestling me and Ryan, my tag partner in the Spark. We're gonna either be wrestling one team or we're gonna be wrestling the other team. So the fans get to decide that day. So it's kind of gonna be on them. So if you're a wrestling fan and you're in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware area and want to come out and decide which team I get to beat up, uh, come on
Oh
out.
my God. Oh, that sounds like fun. Corey, this is yeah.
DCWProWrestling.com for tickets and information.
And I'll have more information in the show notes, of course.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And so this has been great. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. We appreciate it. And maybe another time. And next time we'll have video so you can show your biceps.
Yeah,
Okay. There we
sure. Yes, all that. Perfect.
go.
I
All
gotta
right.
I gotta have you on my show too. So
Okay.
we gotta organize that date and time as
Yep.
well.
This is a new year and new stuff. So let's do it.
All new things.
All right.
Love
Okay,
it.
Corey.
Thanks for
All the
having me
best.
on. I
You rock.
one last thing just always love to say.
Mm.
I say it at the end of every podcast that I do, regardless of what show it is. I always say, if you've listened this far, if you've gotten to this point, I want to make sure I tell you how much I appreciate the currency of your effort, because like you had to seek this out. Like this didn't just come on and you listened, and like it was just, you didn't turn the computer on or turn your phone on and this was the first thing that was on, so you just kept it on. You seek this out. So that effort to me is more valuable than any money, for sure. So the time and effort, as far as a currency that's so super valued, in my opinion, I just want to say thanks for paying it to me. If you want to take it a little step further and just interact with anything, like, comment, subscribe, anything I'm doing, anything on PT, anything he's doing, you guys, come on, like, just please.
She.
I'm so sorry. All right, I apologize.
Come on, dude.
Sorry. I
Okay.
apologize, but sorry. I I did not mean to offend.
No worries.
But any just support us, support people who are putting out content that you feel like you can resonate with. You know, if this is valuable to you in some way, pay it back a little bit more with just a little bit of call to action, meaning just the minimal stuff that you can do, and and whatever lessons you get from anything that we're doing, uh, start applying that stuff. If if you want to follow me and you want to do the things that I do, uh, try to apply any of that stuff. And if it applies, apply it, is what I always say.
That's awesome. All right, Corey. Well, that's a wrap.
All right. Well, this has been great. I'm so grateful. Thank you for doing this with me. And
Thank you for
truly
being here
I truly hope
with your cold and everything.
I truly hope that you have great success with this. And I feel like you will for sure find the niche.
Yeah.
You will for sure find ways to, you will for sure find an audience it's gonna come and find you, and you're gonna have great success. And
Thank you.
and I
Appreciate that very much.
and
Appreciate you.
I want you to come on my podcast. I want
Yep.
us to hang more. I want us to be friends. So I'm
Yes,
excited
yes,
about what the
yes.
next steps are. And
Absolutely. Yes, I'm there. Okay.
all right,
Okay.
let's get to journaling.
Mano y mano, man. Come on.
Cool. Well,
All right.
it was cool to learn about the Bohemian wrestling and stuff like that. It's every you can find value, and you can find nuggets of knowledge in every little thing. So something
Yes.
I'm taking away from this is really, really cool.
Awesome. All right.
Okay, I have a great night. Be fun, have
Later.
safe, keep
Bye.
evolving.
You were listening to Journaling with PT, and what a fun conversation with pro wrestler Mr. Cory Kastle of the Evolving with Cory Kastle podcast. You can follow him on YouTube, Spotify. Follow us here. Subscribe here. That would be wonderful if you continue to support. And thank you for those of you who have supported so far with your likes and your shares and your follows and your subscribes. It's wonderful. The theme music, the beautiful theme music you hear in the background, is from a wonderful musician, Zendo de Melo. The piece is called Preludio. It is cello and classical guitar. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for all that you do. Continue to support the podcast and stay tuned.